So this is going to be about all of the Avatar films. And I'm not going to go through them individually. I don't feel the need to do that. And hopefully you enjoy this. Comment, subscribe if you do. And let's get into it. So my first point is kind of a long one, but I'm going to shorten it because every time I think about this, I go into a tangent. But we're going to keep this nice, cute, and short. My first issue with the Avatar films is that in every single one of them, white people, because they specifically specify white people in this film, the pink skins, if you will, they get to play both hero and villain in a series that should be about colonization and war, but is actually about family. And what do I mean by that? Hero in the way that Jake Sully gets to achieve the mission the generals wanted to in the first one, which is to learn and understand the Na'vi people, the Na'vi world, and their way of life, but in a kinder, calmer way, which is to not technically take over and colonize them, even though by the end of the film, he ends up their leader, which makes to me zero sense. This world is vast, but somebody who knows very little about this place gets to be the leader. Not to mention the army, they get to be they get to live. Not only do they get to keep their lives, regardless of the people's lives that they stole and the chaos and destruction they caused, not only do they get to live, but take everything and go back to Earth. So you see what I'm saying when I say, especially in the first one, you get to play both sides of the coin. You're both the victim and the villain. And to me, that kind of makes it less impactful because this is about colonization. And if it's about colonization, why not focus your gaze on the people being colonized and how they would react in a certain situation like this? But playing both sides is a theme in the Avatar films, but we're going to move right past that. The family aspect did not hit. And don't hate me for this. I know I just said it's about family. It is. But for me, that aspect didn't hit the way that it was supposed to. The little girl, the littlest child of Jake's and Neytiri's, literally got zero screen time. Not zero, but very little. Maybe 5 minutes of whole. Really didn't do anything, had no role. She was completely ignored unless she was in danger. You could say that the second youngest, the one connected to Awa, whatever, you could say that she was similar, but she also got to connect to Awa and perform miracles like Jesus Christ, which that's a whole nother point on this list. We're not going to go through that at this very second. We're going to come back to that. But she got not a lot of screen time either, unless she was being saved or saving. But as for the family dynamic, she didn't really get a lot of that. Now I'll say, I think she got more of it in the third movie than she did the second movie. But that second movie was not good on the family dynamics. I'll say Tame, the second oldest boy, the oldest boy, his only role was, you're not looking after your brother. What am I supposed to do? He keeps getting me in trouble. And then he's dead. That's the whole thing. And I will combine this with a point, which is that Jake was not a good father. And don't hate me, I know. In times of war, one is very stressed. Can't focus on being a loving, caring father. You can only focus on being a general, being somebody who's trying to win a war. I understand. I do get it. But that doesn't take away from what you're doing. The why does not take away from the what. And now the why can give me context to what you're doing. And I think context is very important to any situation. That does not mean what you're doing means more or less, or hurts more or less, or damages more or less. The impact remains the same. The why gives us as the audience a chance to not only understand, but maybe sympathize with what is being done, even though you can't take away what has been done. And in my opinion, Jake was so focused on trying to keep his family alive, he did not at all care about being a father until somebody was in danger, or it was about the little girls. Other than that, he was too hard, in my opinion, on those boys. and never looked inward. And one of the things I hate the most is watching a TV show or a movie, something like that, where there's family dynamics and nobody learns anything. Nobody learns anything. It feels redundant and regurgitated. Jake literally does not understand his second oldest boy and does nothing to understand him. He's acting out. You have been a teenager before, so you know what acting out looks like. And he acts out because he feels like he can't do anything right, because you make him feel he's beneath his siblings. He's the emotions. You make him feel a range of emotions that are not good. And instead of being like, what am I doing to make you feel like you have to prove yourself to me, even when proving yourself means putting all of your siblings in danger? You're unreliable. And that is harming me in trying to be a good father to you. But if I don't understand why you're being unreliable, I can't help you, and you can't help you. You can't help me. We cannot communicate effectively if neither of us are taking responsibility in what is happening between us. Neither of them do that. Both of them are just angry at each other. You're not listening to me. And that's all 3 movies. Even after Jake goes, I think in the second one, at the very end, he's like, I see you. The very next movie, we're back at the same dynamic we were before. It's just so irritating. Neytiri, as much as I said about Jake, I'm not really sure that she was around her kids enough to feel like she was good or bad as a parent. She just was there, in my opinion. I don't remember much of her actual parenting. Most of her scenes are with Jake, let's be clear. And also, when she's not with Jake, when she is with her kids, she's protecting them from needing saving, or yelling at them because they did something bad, or there's no real dynamic between her and her kids. So I really can't say. They gave all the development, that being family and character, to Jake, in my opinion. And Neytiri got some of that, but really it was, oh, you hate your oppressors? That's gonna eat you alive. Don't hate the people that came into your home and destroyed it and literally spit on everything and killed your father and a whole lot of your people and destroyed your sacred tree and are still coming back to kill us and our family specifically again. Don't hate them. No, they don't deserve your hate. It's just gonna eat you alive. That storyline is another thing that really made me mad. How is Neytiri being racist? Do you understand what racism is? I almost did not watch the third movie because I saw, what's her name? Zoe Saldana say Neytiri's a racist. When I heard her say that, before I even saw the movie, the preview, anything, I had to take a deep sigh. I was so disgusted because people really just be saying things. If you think about it, people just be opening their mouths and saying things. And that, people saying things without understanding what they're saying, is one of my biggest pet peeves. It's one of my largest icks. You're not understanding what you're saying is beyond me. Despite white Americans changing words, terms, and phrases to mean what they want it to mean, regardless of what it actually means, which I could do an entire case study on, racism is not a belief. It's an action. The belief is prejudice. The actions put behind those beliefs is racism. Racism isn't hatred. Racism is policy built on hatred. It's laws and rules. It's meant to keep one group of people subjected and suspended in this oppression with only limited ways to escape it. And it's meant to uplift and upgrade and uphold another group of people based on history and societal normality, but also the way that people look. It's societally normal now, but it hasn't always been that way. Like misogyny, it's not always been men above women. That's just how life is going now. Like, racism hasn't always worked that way on Earth. So, for this movie to try and say that her belief makes her racist is wrong. Not just like subjectively wrong, like I think it's wrong, it's factually incorrect. Now, if you look up racism, I was shocked to see just how much people have changed the meaning of it, because that is why when you hear people have a debate and a white person will say, well, what about reverse racism? And black people say that's not a thing, it's not even possible. It's because to white people, they want racism to be a belief so that they can somewhat relate and not be the oppressor to victims, but they can also be a victim and therefore escape responsibility of the oppressors that came before them and themselves. Whereas realistically, racism is not a belief, it's an action, and therefore there's no possible way that reverse racism exists, because black people do not have the power and don't use the power that we have to commit racism against white people, just trying to uplift the black community. And so that's why reverse racism is not a factor at all. It does not exist, and it can't exist until black people have more power than white people. And then in turn, we would have to see whether black people actually use their power the way white people have in past and in recent times. So moving past that point, another point I would like to call out is that I really think that the best thing for these films is how beautiful it looks. The world of Avatar is gorgeous. It was okay. I would give this movie a 3 out of 10. And most of those points go to special effects. I would like to say another point that bugs me is, how is the only Na'vi that can tap into Awa and use Awa's abilities to make miracles, let's say, happen, is a clone of a human? It goes right back to that first point if you think about it. How is it that some Na'vi that's not even really a Na'vi, but built in a cell, is the only Na'vi that could create miracles using Awa's power? To me, that's so... Not only is it exhausting, but it's cheap and it's disgusting, in my opinion. For lack of a better word, it's disgusting. A human, the clone of a dead human, is the only one that could create miracles using Awa's powers. Also, they accomplished the colonizers' goals in 2 ways in 2 different films, and there is no consequence for that. What I mean by that is, Jake was the first. He took over an avatar's body. He lives in it permanently. He both understands the language, the culture, the people they set out to do in the first Avatar film. Now, is that the only thing they set out to do? No. But part of that goal was accomplished. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And then in the next film, without the destruction, of course, and then in the 3rd film, they make Spider, spoiler if you've not seen it, I don't know why you're watching this, they make Spider breathe the air. Not they, the clone of the dead human, Kiri. She makes Spider breathe the air. So, again, twice over, you've accomplished exactly what they wanted you to accomplish. What are they here for? They're here to take over the planet, right? How are they going to do that if they can't breathe our air? Well, that's the question they've been asking for a long time, and you answered it in 2 different ways. You accomplished their goals in 2 different ways. I just want to say I think that's hilarious. Anyway, also, why do we have the same villain for 3 movies? And no, it wasn't done poorly. But Why was it done at all, is my question. It's not necessary. It's really not necessary to make the bad guy in 3 different films, even though he dies. I was gonna say twice, but in the first film once, in the second film he gets saved for whatever reason. Specifically, actually, to bring him back for this movie, because it makes zero sense that Spider would save him. But specifically so that they could have him back for the 3rd film, and then he's killed again. That's what I'm assuming happens. It's kind of ambiguous, but I'm assuming he's dead. At least that's what I want. I want him dead. So that's what I'm going to assume. And the fact that he's a villain in 3 movies is weird, and it's getting to a point. It's very boring, to be honest, because I don't feel anything for him. Why are we giving him background, story, character? Oh, he loves Spider, does he? I don't care. And also, who was having sex with him? That was never even a thing in the first movie. He never looked at anybody in a sexual way. The first movie, I would say I liked his character better, specifically because he was just a bad guy. I don't care what I hurt. I'm doing my job. I'm gonna colonize this planet, and nobody, not even the livestock in front of me, matters. Not even my own men matter. He was very much so just a bad guy. And then we make him a Na'vi, and now that he's an Avatar, he has to have some big dramatic story. Who cares? Just make him bad. As a villain, he was okay. He was alright. In the first one, he was fire. In the second one, it was alright. My next point. I would like to simplify this by saying, every time they say baby in the last 3 films, something about it rubbed me the wrong way, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I think partly it's a good way in showing that no matter how long he lives with them, no matter how much time he spends with the Na'vi, he'll always be human on the inside, and therefore, old habits die hard. He's going to continue to say baby. And of course, Neytiri being around him this long would understand that it's a term of endearment, not an insult, because, from being from a different planet, that's a bit of a weird thing to call somebody if they don't understand it. But of course, Neytiri would understand because she's been with Jake for a long time, and he would have explained to her that it's in a term of endearment, like the way that she puts Mai in front of Jake. My problem is they also have the general calling the red leader of the Na'vi, of the Sant Na'vi, baby as well, without explaining to her what that means. So she just kind of takes it, and to me that doesn't make sense. Even if they didn't know that being called baby was, the title of an infant child, she wouldn't understand what it means. So to just start calling her something and she just takes it because we need to move past this part in the movie, don't think about it too much, is a little bit underdeveloped in my opinion. I would like to see not just the ways that Jake holds on to his humanity, but the ways that he lets go of his humanity as well, and actually embraces being an avatar of the Na'vi, because you'll never really be a part of them. You'll never be Na'vi, but you are an avatar of them. So I would like to see in what ways he actually adopts to being one of them, and not the ways that he holds on to his humanity, because he holds on to his humanity a lot. There's a lot of things that don't change about him, but I would have loved to see what does change about him now that he is part of them. And I just think that would have been nice to see. And them saying, baby constantly within the film, put that on red alert to me. That it showed itself to me through the use of endearing nicknames, that Jake holds on to a lot of his humanity without ever having to sacrifice his humanity to be Na'vi. And the Coronel, he's never going to give up his humanity, but the fact that he also calls this desert Na'vi baby without explanation, and she just takes it, is a bit weird to me. It just means that this is not a very developed thought process. Like, she wasn't supposed to think about it, but if you're the leader and this random man comes to you with I have the answers to all, Like, you're gonna be analyzing everything because he might be an ally now, but he could very well be an enemy later. So you want to know everything. Like, why he keeps calling you baby. What does that mean? What is the origin of this word? That kind of thing. Like, give further thought into it. Otherwise, don't call them that. Call them something else. Like, adopt to theirs and call them my Neytiri or whatever the red lady's name was. That kind of thing. That's all I'm saying. It would just would have been nice to see them adapt and actually take in the Na'vi rather than just their language, skin, and planet. Anyway, I thought the first one, when I watched it the first time, was really good. And I truly loved the film solely because of how beautiful it was. And the soundtrack is outstanding. Like, the acting was really good. So there were a lot of positives when watching the first movie. Unfortunately, dissecting the movies and really getting into what you're trying to say with the films didn't really resonate with me personally. But I really enjoyed, watching the first time. It was such an experience, but I think this movie should have ended with the first one. Because of the message they're trying to convey and then continue it on to 3 movies, it's kind of too much. Especially when you're trying to say something and then going back on what you're saying. It's about colonization, but don't hate the colonizers. It's about family, but when your youngest boy tries to kill himself, nobody's going to talk about that ever again. It just feels kind of confusing in what the message is supposed to be. I get the message, but it also feels like they're not really trying to commit with the message or picture that they're painting. It was an experience to watch all 3 movies back to back to back. And if you love the Avatar films, you think I'm dead wrong, I would love to hear why you think the message is fire and all these things. But if you agree with me, I would also love to hear that and hear your experience through watching these movies. I think in aspects it was really good. Again, the acting, the cinematography, the soundtrack, all of that's beautiful, well done, editing, fire. But I also had a few good problems with this movie that we just went over. And, yes, drink water, stay hydrated, stay busy, exercise.